Hi, I'm Linz. Welcome to Becoming Everwell, a channel where we talk about the ongoing journey of becoming. I'm a former high school English teacher who believes that an education extends far beyond academics, and I write stories that highlight life learning moments of clarity that come about in the pockets of life. Today's piece is about when meaning fails to surface. I make sense of life by writing about real everyday stuff that makes us who we are. Some of these snapshots are fun, some are more serious. Maybe they'll open up something in you too. Let's grow. I came across a recent story in the Wall Street Journal entitled, "6 Friends Tried to Plan a Girls' Trip in a Group Chat. Things Went Sideways." The article garnered hysterical responses in Instagram's comments on the absurdity of this article's existence at all. Sarcastic comments like, "Thoughts and prayers for their struggles," and "Is there a GoFundMe that we can contribute to?" And an observation like this: "I fear we as a society need to become more interesting." Essentially, the glaring sentiment amongst most of the comments was that this is not news. People had hoped for true crime drama or any kind of climax and resolution, but no. The article merely depicted an underwhelming account of an unresolved text thread of a group of women trying to plan a trip that caused division and hurt feelings. The reporter impartially reported the facts, which gives the piece journalistic integrity. But because the facts were so shockingly banal, the article left readers questioning why this scenario even matters, and the 1,000+ disparaging comments reveal that searching for meaning in something as unremarkable as a dysfunctional group chat is not what readers want. The former high school English teacher in me recognized this classic plot without theme frustration. Brief refresher: plot is what happens. Theme is the deeper idea, like the plot's meaning. So, for example, the plot of E.T. is that a spaceship of aliens leaves one alien behind on Earth, and that alien meets and befriends a boy. A theme from E.T. is the power of friendship and love across differences. So, bottom line is, we all crave the fulfillment of deeper meaning in the stories we consume. And we particularly appreciate when meaning comes through the plot so naturally that we're effortlessly moved to feel something of value. But when the plot line lacks intrigue and meaning, like with the failed group chat, we typically default to disappointment. Some newsworthy plot lines are juicy enough to sustain our attention, whether or not the meaning shines through, like a mysterious murder, a catastrophic natural disaster, a scandalous affair. But these shocking plot lines merely trick our systems because they activate big emotions like shock, fear, or horror. Our curiosity gets outwardly focused about what happened to strangers. But unless the story is inwardly meaningful by somehow promoting reflection or somehow connecting us to others in ways that matter or somehow inspiring action through collective empathy, those juicy, newsworthy plot lines are simply our entertainment at someone else's expense. And that's why I struggle with traditional news. News, by design, seems like someone else's race to deliver as many devastating plot-based facts as possible. And as a consumer, absorbing news can feel like being in a doomed blender of bad with ADHD. There seems to be minimal focus on how we might process all the devastating news. I mean, I've never been on the inside of a news organization, but according to Succession, ratings seem to drive the machine, and shocking headlines drive ratings. For all kinds of reasons that I'll likely never know, news providers don't seem motivated to help the audience connect our inner dots by guiding us to reflect on, what does this mean for me, and for you, and for us? So although I concur that this failed group text travel thread is not newsworthy, I appreciate that it deviates from the overwhelming real-life horror that makes up much of today's news cycle. And because I'm all about connecting inner dots, I'm keen to pick up where the article's journalist left off by further exploring this ordinary plotline to see if it actually contains some worthwhile themes for us ever becoming beings to consider. 4 themes come to mind. First, we easily overlook the most crucial element of a gathering when planning to gather. I've long subscribed to Priya Parker's teachings in her book, The Art of Gathering, and this group's flailing attempts to gather reinforce the importance of Parker's philosophy that when we are designing a gathering, we ought to start from the need, not the aesthetic. So in the case of the failed group chat, rather than focusing on the travel destination, which seems to be the only ground they attempted to cover, Parker suggests first focusing on the purpose of the gathering at all. The article reported that their collective upcoming 50th birthdays was the impetus for the group's gathering. Parker would argue that their shared birthdays is the plot, not the purpose. Maybe the purpose for one of them is to have a much needed and relaxing break from the exhaustion of stay-at-home motherhood. Maybe the purpose for another is to treat her senses to luxury, exotic cuisine, and overfloweth beverages. Maybe the purpose for another is to create an Instagram-worthy visual spread for her social media following. Maybe the purpose for another is to settle into their friendships and go on long walks to catch up on life's many ups and downs. Unless desired purpose is discussed, how would we know? Maybe if they'd discuss their personal desires and needs for the gathering, they'd find common ground. Or maybe the reasons to not gather would clearly surface. But when we're all over the place with our unspoken purposes, we struggle to launch. And even if we do eventually launch, because one mighty leader takes the reins and makes the gathering happen, if we're not on the same page with the purpose of the gathering, ultimately, disappointment tends to befall the group in some way. It's inevitable. And rather than having a meaningful gathering that feeds positive transformation, that disjointed gathering could mark the beginning of a challenging fracture. Number 2, the questions we ask matter. And that goes for the questions we ask others and the questions we ask ourselves. After their 50th birthdays passed with no group trip, the article's author wrote, "I asked all 6 women where things currently stand. I got 6 different answers. I wonder what she may have learned if she'd asked, 'What do you want out of this gathering?' Or 'What do you think the other women want out of this gathering?' And we'd all benefit from regularly asking ourselves in all kinds of scenarios, why does this matter for me? And that's not to inspire unbalanced self-interest or entitlement. It's more about checking in with one's own emotional landscape so that we can become more self-aware to effectively make decisions that better serve our well-being. The 3 most effective questions that I've incorporated when making a tricky decision that affects and involves others are these. 1, what do I want for me? 2, what do I want for you? And 3, what do I want for us? I gleaned this tool from a communication workshop called the Engaged Workshop that my husband and I took many years ago when we were engaged to get married and went on to co-lead. When all parties ask themselves, then articulate their responses to these 3 questions, effective decisions get made. Number 3, direct communication leads to cleaner outcomes. As a college freshman, I dreaded a difficult conversation that I needed to have with a roommate, which was to tell her that I'd decided to live with someone else for my sophomore year. My mom's sage advice was this: you can have one uncomfortable conversation now to make way for a year of what you want. Or, alternatively, you can avoid that hard conversation and endure a year of disappointment. I've applied her advice to be direct sooner than later to countless situations since then. Direct communication prevents, addresses, and resolves so much of the thorny tensions that comprise our complex emotional lives. And the women on the group chat could have saved time, effort, and energy by directly discussing what they wanted and needed for themselves and each other. It's also worth noting that although texting reigns as a convenient form of communication in our daily lives, we all know this, texting is inherently flawed when it comes to the emotional intricacies of human interaction. Conversations that could happen in minutes on a call can drag on for ages over text. One's intended tone can be absent. Humor can be misunderstood. Sarcasm can be read as passive aggression. Passive aggression can be read as humor. The implications of emojis vary. Text exchanges leave far too much room for indirect communication pitfalls. My opinion is that texting wins for communicating logistics and straightforward, loving sentiments. When it comes to anything with nuance, pick up the phone. Number 4. Friendships change, and that's okay. Relationships from the past may not offer the fuel we need for one's own fulfilling forward growth. And that may seem sad, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe the group trip didn't happen because as they're each approaching 50, they've tuned into their inner knowing, and although they loved these women historically and can imagine enjoying this group trip, perhaps gathering is not what the collective whole actually wants when it comes to investing today's time, money, and energy. Every yes is a no to something else, and every no is a yes to something else. Perhaps this group of women are not even aware of each other's yeses these days. A productive few questions that we all ought to be asking our dearest friends are, what are you saying yes to these days? And what yeses make you feel good? Ultimately, I'd say that although this failed group text travel thread story isn't newsworthy, it is thought-worthy. And actually, a reader of mine informed me after I published this on Substack that within the Wall Street Journal, this piece was actually published as part of the personal journal section. And the comments within the subscriber base were quite a bit more positive on the scenario's relatability. I'd only seen it in Instagram, and those reactions were ruthless. But regardless, perhaps the author, like me, believes that our everyday lives are filled with unremarkable moments that can offer valuable life learning. But I believe that the key is digging for and exposing the meaning. This article missed the mark, mostly because the article didn't help its reader uncover the plot's meaning. But luckily, we readers and thinkers are all entitled to engage in inner dot connecting from anything we've read. So that's what I just did. Let's keep growing. I'm Lindsay Hurdy. Learn more about me and my offerings on my Substack, lindsayhurdy.substack.com. You may not know that in addition to publishing my own writing, I help people with all kinds of important writing, from college essays to end-of-life love letters. You can learn more at foreverletterwriting.com. I would love to support you in your writing. Whether you're here for help with writing or a desire for inner fulfillment coaching, which is something that I offer one-on-one, or for the quiet life learning that may accompany my stories, I'm grateful that you found this spot in the web, and I hope you'll keep coming back. Until next time. Be sure to like and subscribe and click that bell to get alerts for new posts. I'd be ever grateful.